in the call too. I'm here. I'm driving. I'm almost there.
Oh, perfect. Well, there. Now you have a committee of 3, and I think we've received today that the other member could not be in attendance. So this isn't a formalized meeting, just because we don't have a quorum, but we can still hold it and still have the discussion and still have all, we can still discuss what needs to be discussed.
Yeah, I think Patricia's out of town. I think she had to head to Miami.
Hey, Charles, I see you there too.
Hey, Ron.
Okay.
Oh, you muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry. I'm just gonna go with the one screen in the room. Rose sent her apologies. She's out sick. She started yesterday and then had to go out. So she's like the flu or something. However, we have Delise here. We can still go over all the things anything on here. I know we had this item, the separate entity updates, the CDD GoGov open request and closed request. Delise, do you have anything you'd like to provide commentary on?
No, just with those, we had a total for the first quarter, 101 open, and we had 94 closed as of yesterday.
Fantastic. That's over all service areas.
All services.
And then really, we just go straight into our discussions. This is, while it's a new format, it's really the same structure for you as we've had in our last meetings. So we can review your financials, talk about your landscaping projects. I know yours is right now sitting with the board on the board's agenda for tomorrow. And then,
I thought that was on the agenda for the 12th.
Is it on the workshop?
To the workshop, and now it's for the board meeting.
Got you. Yes, so that was on the workshop as a discussion item on the 12th. That's kind of the standard practice now. All items go on to a workshop to be discussed and then moved on to the board meeting for approval. So that is on the consent agenda for approval. So that most likely means there'll be no discussion. It'll just be voted straight through at the start of business discussion.
Gotcha.
They typically try not to do any action item approvals in the workshop meetings unless it's an extreme priority, time sensitive. They usually like to keep all of those as a discussion and then move them to the board meeting just to allow more of transparency and kind of keeping business in the business meetings and discussions in the workshop. So the next thing on your discussion is about your financials. I know you, as your committee, received the full packet. Nick, Patrick, do you have anything that you want to discuss with the financials or any questions before we can, or we can just slightly go through or?
For me, the only thing, and I'm trying to find the email, I was trying to get clarification on the water bill. I didn't really understand the explanation for why the water bill is suddenly like much higher than it was historically. Rose provided an answer. I just can't find the email, but it didn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Let me see here if we can find that too.
I can't find it. It was something about certain water was applied to public something, but it didn't make sense to me.
Was that for irrigation water, Nick?
It was, I believe it was, I'd have to see. I guess it's just our water bill.
Was it the common area?
Yeah, I
It's like
believe
a-
so. That's what it was, common area.
Yeah, so your service area, you're just the one that's connected to your service area. Let's see here. I'm on the email chain now. I'm reviewing it. This was from early February, correct?
Yeah, and I just can't find where she gave the explanation.
Okay,
Oh, it says, water usage was being underfunded at the budget discussion. I shared this with Jacob. For 2022, usage was lower because the first months were billed to passive parks.
So that means they weren't billed to your association, they were billed to CROA. So
Okay.
you weren't seeing those numbers, and that's probably why you're seeing higher numbers now. So because
So
of
we were seeing some numbers. So what numbers were we seeing?
I'm
Like obviously they had like, expenses applied to them, but
under the impression that that's probably the kind of the median areas, or Charleston has those parks, kind of pocket parks throughout it. Those are probably or potentially metered separately than your yard space and your front yard and backyard, with the audit of recategorizing those to Charleston as the service area would be why you'd see a small charge going to a larger charge.
so say that
Yeah.
again. What would we suddenly be paying water for that we weren't previously?
Sorry, so you have a few, I know there's that median park, right? Like the water in the middle. It's almost a park, like an island in your parking lot.
We have a very, very, very small.
Small one.
I don't think there's any potable water being used in the common areas. I think it's all irrigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're correct. It's probably all related to irrigation, at least with that, but I know we're seeing these. I remember
How
us
were they
looking.
being billed for the common area?
Oh, you locked it?
Yeah.
Can you help me in?
Where's the entrance door to get into this place? Yeah, I won't take my ID.
The large breezeway, the door across from the gym, just pull the handle.
Sorry, Nick,
Sorry.
I'm here. I'm just wandering around.
Let me pitch it. I saw someone peeking in the window.
There it is.
Hey there. None do. Okay. Special line. Yes. I'm not sure exactly what you were seeing and what you're seeing now, but I do understand the justification that they were being coded to passive parks in 2022, which would mean that it wasn't coming out of your service area budget.
How did they get there to begin with? How did they? I'm just for my own edification. How did that get bucketed in under the service area? And then are we confident that that's been fixed going forward? And that's just truly a reflection of the increase in water that we're seeing universally across other service areas and countywide more so.
What was that, Elise?
I believe it came up because they started doing research for service areas with the water bill. So they did some historical checks and some information came up, so Rose was informing the service areas of what they found. Details we can probably follow.
Yeah, I read it as a follow-up that we can do, make a follow-up and the committee follow up on the explanation of the water bill.
Only because I don't know if it truly matters or not, but the property line for our lots is pushed far back, a majority of them, so that CCD has a lot more grass area, if you will, that's all over there, and technically that meter, and so does that main line falls on CCD's line, so I don't know where the building came up, but I know this question we had before, so.
We could provide the answer to that, or we'll ask Rose to provide a follow-up.
and I had a question about the reserve side of it. I think the last time we met, I think you haven't got me study back yet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think the study came through now. Was there any adjustments that they recommended cost wise?
Surface areas were not as, they weren't as worst case as expected, but let me see here. I think that was included. We have yours. Look right.
And ours was like supposed to come in the week after that meeting, so.
Yes.
Kind of a weird
And
time.
they did, it didn't adjust much.
Okay.
But let's see here, because we can still, I'll still review it to tell you what your account balance was looking like it should be at the end of the year versus what your balance actually was. And that can give us a situation on where you are.
Right, right.
So. Here load. Thank you for your patience. Let's see here. We are in Charleston. North Village funding plan. The biggest thing that I bet we're going to be seeing is it looks like your expected annual contribution may be higher than it was, but your balance rate and its current state is in very good standing. So the new reserve study had your beginning balance of entering 2025 at 428,000. That's not going to be on the document. That's in your packet.
For 4+6, yeah, by
Yeah.
the second month, so, okay.
But yeah, by you're at 441 by your second month in your reserves, with the interfund assets still at 15,000. So your operating cash is tight, very tight in the sense of the interfund assets is the IOU to what needs to be transferred over to your reserves, which puts your operating just at 3,000, actually like 2,850, so $2,850. That can be due to, where are we at here?
Also,
On your ownership assessments, are we at budget amounts? Yeah, it's showing you're online on your ownership, on your assessment, if you had some late payments, it could have been delaying that. So that's just one thing to really we're gonna be watching this year, is that you have a very tight operating fund. So if there's anything, like a hurricane cleanup or a storm comes through and we have to get your roof looked at, any of those types of expenses that might not be in your full out operating budget that have to still come out of operating, that's really gonna pull that, which could defer any contributions into your reserve.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So gutter cleaning, power wash at 900% over budget. I'm just saying, like, it's just weird to have these so far right in the beginning. This is month 2. Power washing, I think they did power washing recently, but I think they did.
Your power washing will,
$3,480 over budget.
Shouldn't the power washing be that from the previous budget, because it was scheduled to happen in October of 2024 and then happened in February or end of January 2025? We delayed the power washing because of the Halloween decorations being up and the request to not have that happen. So those funds should have been available from the previous budget.
yes, and in that sense, it would be, or your previous budget would show an overage of funds on your power washing line. But it's still sitting it's still sitting that your operating is low with that. So with it hitting in Q1 versus hitting in Q4 of last year, you're right, it will affect those annual numbers.
That's just strange that our operating cash is that low.
It's been running tight. It's just every little unexpected has been hitting a bit higher. Your year, so when you really be careful when looking like on the gutter cleaning, or on some of those actual expenses versus the budget, because some of those lines you use at a higher, you only
Right.
use
Once a year,
Yeah.
you usually the quarter, something like that, yeah, no, I understand.
The roof repairs is the one, yeah, that's,
I'm more of looking over the budget line all the way across, that's all. Just
yeah,
trying to figure out
that's
how you got-
all annual.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how you got power washing at 51, for 3,531 expense, it's kind of strange. Is it yearly power washing? I thought it was this year.
It was twice a year, but then I think that it was on hold for the holiday and then it resumed in January, the rest of the service areas that needed it.
So I spent the entire budget on it, first quarter.
Where your full power washing would be
The full-
a much larger one than your flat zone. So that is a much higher cost, but let's see, what was the total amount in your power washing line? This might not be correct in the CRNet system, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, because it's showing your power washing. Well, no, it's showing your power washing annual budget at 3,500, okay.
Yeah, but that's what we spent 3,480, so that's a power budget for the entire year. I think I don't get the financials, I'm not in front of you, but I'm just trying to look at through some of the operating stuff. Just more asking questions, Mitch. That's the cost of the cost, it just seems strange that our budget's so low. We were in the whole budget. And I second month.
I don't have that in front of me, but didn't we also have like 15 grand in landscaping stuff? From previous years? That was in the operating as well. I thought I had an email from Rose that said we had 5 grand in 2025, 5578 from 2020 in improvements, and then 5,400 from 2024 that should have carried over.
I wonder, let me look here at your reserves, so I think you might be looking at your funding lines in your reserves for landscape.
I think it was for reserves, Nick, I think that was brought up.
Okay, because in her
Yeah,
email,
yeah.
she says 2025 operating.
Okay, maybe, let's see here, because I'm gonna say here, in your reserves. Luce, you might have pulled up their 2025 budget. That'll as well. Because you have an annually $5,500 in your landscape improvements for your in the reserves allocation, and that's all your reserves. That's all you're anticipated to spend from reserves in 2025 as well as 2026. Your in 2027 is a large expense of your roofs.
But we still have funds from 2024 available.
Okay, so
on the budget, so.
that should have been.
You send it to me or you like,
Oh,
oh yeah, it's the loading in this job.
yes.
That's what was happening with me for this one. The drive's slow in this property.
When I look back, Rose sent an email on February 18th that says the 5 grand in operating budget, 5578 for improvements in 2025 in reserves, and 5,400 in improvements from 2024 for a total of 15,978.
Okay, so she's pulling, you did not do landscape improvements in 2024. So if we're looking at your reserve expenditures, you have that 5,500 this year and the 40, I think you mentioned the 48 number from last year, and that's getting the larger amount of it. And I'm assuming that 5 grand in your operating is what is listed in your budget for operating, but not what you're in your actual account balance. So that I think that email would make sense on if you were to looking at any landscape projects, you could spend up to an amount of.
Okay.
You may want to pull, I mean, it's just gonna tighten. You're using that, for this project may pull your just reserve type. Right now, it's just sitting fine.
There's still a roof seating in 2026, you said, right?
The roof.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so the reserve study was left, they left it intact in there, because that still is, that's an extra year on that roof that that we still have. I'm saying it's scheduled too early.
The notes in the budget is 2027 roof project exit.
Okay, that would make sense, okay,
Yeah.
I think it's 2026, a little like, so what is it, yes, roof in 26, nothing, right?
No, your only expenses from your reserve fund in 2026 are in line with 2025.
Gotcha. That's what I.
Yeah, which is just going to be your,
Mhm.
27 is a large 630,000 for your roof.
That's the roof budget, yeah.
That's the roof only for certain units, because we did part of, Patricia's side.
Yeah, so that's correct. Let's see here. I'm just trying to find what's the landscaping improvement line be. So in your 2025 operating budget, $5,000 is in a line for landscaping not in contract. It's not advisable to use that full amount for landscaping projects because if anything comes up, that's, yeah, hurricane cleanup or, you have to get a tree removed or, or land because of the roots or something, that would come out of that line as well. But yes, you do have, that is what that fund is sitting there for. What's been your annual contributions into your reserve? 68,000. So, yes. And so 2000, this is the only thing that really is gonna affect or start to heavily affect your budgeting process for next year. Your contributions to your reserve in 2023 were 61,000. In 2024, 68,000, and that stayed flat in 2025. So your increase was mainly through your operating, but not raised by a reserve contribution.
Because we transferred the settlement of the insurance.
Mhm. Now, we'll start looking into the budgeting process for next year or just, on a very high level, your contribution recommendation for this year and is 94,000. Next year is at 97,000. So you'll most likely be ending the year at a shorter balance, but you're still over on your total account.
Right.
So as long as by the
When is that reserve study?
Pardon?
When did they have the reserve? When did they have the reserve study done
Oh.
last?
Hold on, that was, sorry, are those numbers I gave you or,
I was saying, it was right after,
but.
The results came like 2 weeks after the budget meeting.
Yeah, last year.
Okay. See, so it's the same as the cycle we just got out. They got theirs at the same time we did, Jacob.
Yeah, we were just having with the service areas, a couple of their kind of budget discussions were, we did not have the numbers yet. Actually, still even with Pro, we didn't have the numbers so closer to the end. Okay. Still quite in line. You're
Yeah,
at,
'cause at our budget meeting, the funds from the litigation weren't
Correct.
showing either.
Right, so
Yeah.
fix that.
how much is in, what was their contribution this year? Did we say 68,000?
68,227.
and we had a number before, the study was actually finalized, that's what we were joking about, well, keep it flat.
You're very close.
If they keep it flat, that's so, yeah.
So if you're at 68,000 plus where you're at now. Okay, so you're on track to end the year right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
The harder to converse, so. With the adjustments that you have in the insurance claim, your contribution this year. It being slightly short from the recommended contribution, but your account balance is already a little high.
Right.
You should still end close to 520, the recommended 524,000 next year. The big concern is next year. So your contribution is expected to be at 91,000. That's going to be a heavy increase to your dues. This year was at 88,000. We didn't have to do that because where your accounts were. Next year is at 91,000 and then it continues at 94, 94, for 94,000.
What's the increase, what percentage is that?
That would be it's 68, so that's going to be a $23,000 increase overall. If we look at your total revenue in.
And that's really all roof. If
And,
the roof gets,
yeah, and Nick, keep in mind that roof, they still have a shorter useful life on it, and that was something that we kept debating with the board last time, when the board actually went over that. The roof useful
Right,
life is still
it's
really
a
short.
10-year replacement cycle.
Right, which is not, that's not the useful life standard anywhere in Florida right now, for only 2 years on asphalt roof.
It can be postponed. Now, the kind of issue lying on that is, so you, with this plan, you'd be entering 2027 at $624,000. Your expenses for your roof are about $630,000.
Yeah.
So of course, it's expecting you to do a $94,000 contribution, meaning that by the end of year, by your roof project, your account is still sitting about $94,000.
Yeah.
Now that's expected, like you said, we might be able to get more time out of the roof. It is $633,000 enough for the roof? That's kind of the question where.
It's not all the roof though, it's only the sections that were replaced at a later time. So there's, I'm researching the section down.
Okay,
And that's why I was making sure, that's why I wasn't here when they did the study. But I mentioned multiple times that please make sure they understand there's 2 different roofs now that have 2 different useful lives.
so it'd be a partial replacement. Okay, so that does help that helps.
I don't, you showed up phase 1, phase 2, or did they break out the roofs? They should have, but they're done like 5 years apart, 6 years apart. It's fine.
I
Nick,
think-
when was done? How many years ago?
I'm pretty sure I've been in celebration in this home like almost 6 years, and when I got here, they still weren't done parts of the project.
They have it separated out. You have replacements from roof that is from 2017 and roof that's from 2021.
Okay, so 21 is Patricia's whole row, and 17 is my row.
That makes sense, because I'm like, I don't see how 600,000 is enough.
Yeah.
Usually they're much more,
My course,
that makes a lot more sense.
no, I know this has been bounced around so many times, like here, we even had like increase or like, are you sure it's accurate? Let's put more money in. It's usually easier from experience to have too much money in reserves than run out of reserve money.
Yeah.
So
Do we
Oh,
think
and-
though, do we think we're gonna be able to maybe extend it to like 12, 13 years, or do we think it's gonna be at 10?
you think the board's gonna just let us do a survey again?
What is, yeah, if you want to, I mean, if you do a survey of your owners, you can do that and then
Yeah.
get the results to.
No, the last the board just hired a place to get.
Oh, like the
it was super cheap, yeah, it was very inexpensive, they came back, so you got 2 more, 3 more years for whatever else, maybe just adjusted it.
What would be?
Cause it's a 20-year shingle, isn't it?
It is a 20-year shingle, we pulled the packing for it, yep.
But what is with the your insurance, right?
The
Change it over a certain age.
It is, at 12 years, it starts getting squirrely,
At 12.
yeah.
So I think
Commercial settings are a little weird, so I don't know, it depends if we do a group policy or not, back to that question, it's also on the agenda. But they can do a survey to see if the roof is still sustainable. The
Yeah.
concern was why they shortened it in the first place is because remember Patricia's was fixed. Technically, they just repaired ours, they didn't actually do a replacement like this being recommended by engineers. So that's why they
So-
shortened just in case.
it sounds like something more towards the end of 2026 to get the engineer out to see what it would be, to see what the scope would be to do to send the.
It's hurricanes or whatever else we have by then, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But 10 years is the state number that we always move in there, so.
Yeah, I think you can go up to 12. Anything past that 12, you're gonna have a harder fight, because now you're fighting those changes on insurance rates, and then you get the homeowner starting to complain. Even though really all it is, do you want to hire insurance, or do you want to put more in your reserves to replace the roof sooner?
Yeah.
So.
Get insurance, hope that gets corrected soon.
Mhm.
We all hope.
So that's just something, when I, looking at financials, the biggest impact wasn't is more in line of some of these projects, have been reassessed on the real cost to complete. Roofs being one of the main ones that from the reserve study done 3 years prior for service areas, they saw the contributions go up exponentially on this because the cost for the projects also went up.
Ballooned.
So
Yep.
now we're starting to see, that's gonna be your biggest. How do we not increase, at a full up, upwards of 20%? It gets to be a challenging discussion when we are trying just to fund the reserve for those projects. Pushing those back is still something that can be debated, can be looked at, but it would still be recommended to fund for
Right, yeah.
the fund for the current case. In that case, if by the end of the year, we still need to do that. Also, just because at the end of that project, it's still looking at you've used all of that
Right.
cash. So that's just something that I want to put out there at the start is when our next meeting will be right in, as we really are starting to look more at budget season. So I want you to kind of put that down, start that conversation early. I know when you talked about the roof, that did get looked into, it would take a change to the governing documents or the bylaws. It would take a 75% vote among the service area, all service areas,
Sure.
to do. So, yeah. It's not one of those, it's not possible. It's just extremely hard.
Or
Get that much
five
participation.
now, we know the one owner, 5 of them, so we don't know. Yeah, okay. Was there any, that's what the legal said, was there any idea of what the cost was, did anyone reach out, try to figure out? It's usually easier to bundle and group up policy for the entire roof as one and have. How many units do we have in our thing again? I mean, policy, saying of roof coverage. The concern is that maybe at this moment, there's a few, 29. Yeah, so there's a few houses that we know of that don't have insurance that actually covers the roof properly. And so there's a lot of confusion on how to insure those roofs. And just having good policy is usually a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier to exclude the roof than from our own policies. If there's one massive one for the roofs. But
We can check with SILE, our insurance. The issue is it might be different because that's more of our HOA level of insurance. Where if you're doing it just for a service area, they can get a number, but just the realisticness of, is that number going to be available? So it's going to be tricky.
I'm just saying if it's financially worth it or not, people can exclude it, we just have their policies. It's funny, the roof is what costs, my personal side, it's roof is what costs the biggest issue, of my insurance company. And our roof was replaced in 2017, I said the permit for it, so they know it was done.
I will see if we can get a price estimate. I mean, we can.
There's a ballpark.
Yeah,
It's
we can-
financially, it's not so big.
Yeah, it's just something, I'm sure it'll be one of those, even if we do, it'll have a disclaimer that this isn't our number, this is a
Right.
ballpark number from the vendor we use. Is there anything else on your financial before we move on to the landscaping projects?
No, I think everything's good. I do know that I think we'll probably have to follow up with Rose because there was I think Patrick, didn't Patricia want to get a quote on like the cement blocks for the trash cans or something?
Oh, the paver? Like the
Yeah,
granite?
the paver or
paver.
something. Yeah. I don't think I
Yeah, I
ever
think-
saw a number for that, but we can follow up with Rose on that.
Yeah. Give our for approved from CROA and then we'll just go get one from Home Depot.
What follow-up you want to do to have pavers?
He was, we walked it with her and proposed everybody else, they were just looking at where the trash can goes, because right now it's either sitting on grass or sitting on
whatever's there, mulch or whatever else they're just trying to put a solid surface for the sit on without being too crazy expensive, so they're just trying to put the paper things, they get the solid pieces you can separate in, just.
If you're wanting to look at approaching that from the service area, not per owner?
Well, she was gonna see what the feasibility was, because she was maybe had to get a review, official review on it.
You would.
Yeah.
For each one.
You need to change, right, so we could do one for everything, you can just change them all kind of thing. Instead of having to be owner filing when they try to get a paper filer. It's much more effective than. How many years you get, 29 different? Yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean-
think, weren't we gonna get one and put it near the mailbox? And then Rose was gonna work with the service area to send out an email and say, hey, this is something that the service area is considering when you go to get your mail. Take a look at it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? So that way, at least there's a consensus if it's something that everyone liked or hated.
That having everyone all 29 people applying for something different, so.
Actually, no, Rose is working on that.
Whatever, yeah. I'm just trying to stay in that situation.
That was one that I didn't feel comfortable making a community-wide decision on, and that was kind of the compromise. Put it where everybody can see it, and then everybody can either say yes or no.
Concrete.
What is your? Cause
Some people love that back alley and want to make it very, very, very beautiful.
Well, I can understand that.
I'm more focused on the front.
I get it, yeah, pick your battles, you're saying, pick your battles, especially with the limited funds.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to look at what your quote is in the board, or for landscape in Charleston's.
I think I think the project going to the board is 5,000 something.
It is.
And that one is to address the grass that's dying and some of the drainage issues and irrigation issues that are drowning the grass and getting sod planted and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a struggle to see if. It would be a struggle to have your paver be a reserve expense. Because it's not a replacement of anything. If anything, it's an improvement, which is an improper use of that fund. So it would have to be funded through your operating fund. Which you do have that 5,000 budgeted dollars in there. So I mean, you could look at it in that line. If it's not used for anything else. So it's a good project you could save for, since that's
The
not.
end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a time sensitive one. You save till the end of the year, get all the blessings on it. And then if your funds allowed, you could do it out of your operating.
Yep.
So just a heads up, I know as we were mentioning you have a total of 16,000 for landscaping. That was pulling last year's number from reserves, this year's number from reserves, and your operating 5,000. Since you didn't use that last year's, yes, you can use it. However, you also have that, the opportunity to not use that funds to help cover that escalated contribution that's expected
Sure.
next year. And so, just something to keep in mind that just because you didn't use it, it doesn't go away. It stays in the main bucket and you can use it to help fund the roof project in a couple of years.
I would say the expenses are definitely gonna be large enough coming out of reserve. They have to reburn, burn some zero, so the grass is dead, it's flooding out the grass. And they already trying to figure that out too, putting more dirt on top of it, just to see if they can spot, get some islands, if you will, to pop up, so they know they have money to spend on sideways, like Nick was saying. So yeah, I don't think there's any intent trying to paper out of reserves, so.
Okay, yeah. Keeping that one clear. Oh, I think that's a good idea. You can't take
having 29 people do something separate, so that's we're trying to keep that from happening.
Yeah, I mean, we've done things for that's really more particular to condo associations, that if they're wanting to put a certain window in, that we do an approved window for the association. Those types of blanket approvals that still remain on the homeowner to do the install are accepted, but they probably wouldn't do one for this because there's so many variants to get it, like, while it's approved to do the pavers, it was approved on this specific paver, and then if everyone starts to do it with their own.
Right, which is why we prefer a decentralized instead of having everyone go get their own papers.
Yeah.
Go find this paper with the skew, good luck, I mean.
I know, that's fair. Mhm.
I mean, everyone has a trash can, I'm pretty sure we all have them standardized trash cans. So,
Yeah.
So, it's the idea. Cool. What was next on that?
Next on your agenda, those landscape projects, service area accomplishments, talking about future projects, and then the committee member process for next year, or for this year. I don't know if either of you are you planning to be on the committee again? Send your applications in?
I already got mine in.
All right.
Last one, Nick. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
The last, all three of you did?
They all
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. So that's good. So you at least have enough in to hit a quorum.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. On that, most likely the process as part of the review of the bylaws and trying to follow what the bylaws were originally written as, the process for appointment will look a little different, but it will most likely be looking different this year than in years past. It will, and what that really, okay, it looks like a couple things. One, this term will run a little longer because in the past, all applications were submitted, the board reviewed them, and then they would appoint committee members.
Mhm.
In accordance to the bylaws, the process is different, where it needs to run as a proxy election, just a similar election process for that you did to start your service area.
Mhm.
The election can be nullified if there's no more candidates that apply. So if your committee is for 3 to 5, which I'm pretty sure you can see up to 5, if you have up to, since there's 3 in now, and you get 1, there's 0, 1, or 2 more, then the election is not required because all of those will then fill the seats. The seats do not get filled officially until your annual meeting of your service area, which is going to dovetail to coincide as the same meeting as your Q2 meeting. So which means looking at around June. That doesn't look like it's going to affect much for you. I'm just saying this because it does affect some other service areas. If they have new people wanting to get on, that time is looking like it, because usually it happened around May, typically after everything gets in, then the appointments and the meeting starts at May. It's looking like it might be a bit of a month later this time, but then every year past this, it'll be the same. It'll run about the same schedule.
So
So that-
Jacob, can I jump in real quick? Yeah,
Yes,
can
you
I jump in real quick? Because I think, so the issue with this is we have not, well, I say we, Grand Manors / CCMC, this has not been administered correctly, as you're hearing. So, is this going to be the final thing? I don't know. There's going to be a question about amending the bylaws because there are some questions about the administration of this. What's obviously the cost to the service areas for administering elections and things along those lines. So I think we're going to have to definitely have some board level discussion about this. Just
Yeah.
obviously, we've been doing this for many, many years against what the bylaws currently say. So I think the question is going to be, what does the future state look like by actually doing this as written in the bylaws versus passing a resolution to amend the bylaws based on how we've been administering it. So I think there will be more to follow. But to Jacob's point, it's definitely on the radar.
Yeah. So as it current stands, we had that reviewed by general counsel, and the general counsel says, yep, how you're reading it is how it's just supposed to be. So now that we've been notified of this, that's kind of the plan of action, but there's still, as I said, it still is something to be discussed. It can be changed, but it would require that significant vote to change. Anything changing the bylaws is not an easy change to do, but definitely something that is not completely finalized. It doesn't look like it's going to have a huge impact right now for you. You don't have a ton competing for the seats, so just something that we're starting to socialize.
They could be getting more volunteers, so, that's cool. That's what I.
And I've seen that I've seen this happen in a different area that I may have worked in the past, where those types of conversations happen between that service area around, and even with candidates that applied to avoid the cost of an election. Basically, in the sense of, if you have 6 candidates,
Yeah.
do you need
Stop. Yeah.
Yes, or can you all agree amongst yourself, one will drop out to avoid the election, to avoid the cost of an election and the bureaucracy process.
So like point in, it's not really weird.
Yeah, there are some interesting things that you can do to, if. Yeah, there's some interesting ways to approach these issues. It is 4:47, we're nearing the end of our time, and we have kind of skimmed over all of those items. Let me take here, I have a recap to get an estimate on the group policy for your Charleston roofs to get back to you, follow up with, or have Rose do a follow up on the mailbox pavers. And there was the first thing, thank you.
Water bill.
And the water bill. Anything else from you gentlemen?
No, everything's been great.
Can I just throw it out real quick, just for a few minutes? Is obviously the performance improvement plan is something that we're trying to move forward with, but since the last meeting, I mean, can you just kind of give a thumbs up, thumbs down, same? Where do you think we're improving, staying the same, getting worse? What are your? Because this is something definitely we're paying a lot of attention to at the board level.
I mean, for me, I would say that there's more attention on the service areas. I would say that there's more accountability, more follow-up, more availability.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say definitely an improvement. Jacob's been a welcome addition. Not to toot his own horn, but yeah, he's been nice to have, and Rose has been great with the projects that we've involved her in lately, and yeah, follow-up has been there, and everything has been pretty solid. So we appreciate everything you guys have done as a board to help with that as well.
Okay, great feedback. Thanks.
Absolutely. So the transparency has been really nice. Again, trying to talk through it and not just, it's the paper set, really understanding what exactly happened to get us here in the first place and what's, what we're looking at. So definitely appreciate it.
Awesome.
Do you know the leagues, are they scheduled for the spring flats still? They're on the list, okay. And I know, I think, I remember talking to Rose about this, putting them at the very tail end because of their delay on their flow.
Correct, so we're gonna work with community standards to see which one needs it first and put in the schedule. And I would
Yeah,
order.
saw a couple today when I was out about it. I know we'll need the prioritization on that, and I definitely know that Charleston not on that needs the prioritization. So that
On that topic of power washing, something to maybe put on your radar is as they do the flats, as they do the steps, even in this last service, there's a lot of areas that had paint chipping off everywhere because the last paint project had so many issues, and I really don't think they followed the RFP in terms of putting a clear protective coat on it. Because I know I've had my actual front steps painted at least 5 times, and they started peeling again. So just something to have on your radar, that when the service is completed, I would anticipate those type of things popping up and maybe having to put some sort of plan together to get them addressed. I remember Benjamin Moore was involved and offered to provide a lot of paint for free based off of what they saw. So we might actually have the paint and might be able to, get it applied rather inexpensively somehow, since we don't have to get the supplies. But I know I've seen it on mine, and there's been many other people that have experienced it. And I think as time goes on, it's just going to become, after every service, more and more of an issue.
makes sense. It's a good one.
Hey, Nick, who did the repair last time in yours?
I had the original painting company do about 3 of them with all the same results. And then the last time, I believe they used the Benjamin Moore project and just had maintenance guys from the Croa team apply the paint.
Gotcha.
That's a good note. I'm gonna see, yeah, okay.
That's all I got.
All right, well, we don't have to officially adjourn the meeting since we didn't officially close that. So with that, thank you guys so much. Thanks for making this easy and having good questions. And I didn't have to spend the whole time explaining the reserves, which is always nice. So,
Funded and everything else.
so thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
we'll
Thank you,
be in
Jacob.
touch.
Thank you, Delise. Thank you. Have a great day,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye, Nick. Bye, Charles.
Yeah, back to back, maybe